Okay, basically this is what we'd like to do. This class rectangle with two instance variables that are private. These minuses are private, so whatever you see a minus in this kind of diagrams or class representations, this means private. The plus means that they are public. Notice that the data type is not mentioned, which is up to you. If we don't mention data type, which is you're free to select whatever you want. So we're going to be doing something later on, but the only restriction that we have is that make sure that the length and width are positive numbers, which means if the user gives us some negative numbers, we need to deal with them. And that's what we're going to be doing. So let's create our project. I'm going to name it Week 12 Exercise number 2, because that's the exercise number 2. There's another exercise. If you would like to look at it, just check it in the book. So I'm going to create a new class by right-clicking on the package and create a new Java class. So I just right-click on the package because I want these two to be on the same thing. We're going to maybe talking more about those packages in the next class, Java 2 probably. So what I would like to name this is rectangle. I'm just respecting this thing. I'm seeing some of you, they're not really into the spelling. They can spell it wrongly, they don't care. I think they should care, because when you are going to be, inshallah, later on some kind of analyst programmer, we are going to be designing different classes, you're going to be distributing those different classes to different people, and you want them to respect the general same, standardized way that everybody is using. So if they're expecting you, for example, to have a name called the rectangle, and maybe that's some other person is going to be having a variable, an instance variable that is of a data type rectangle. So they're going to be assuming that you spelled it correctly. So you have to pay attention to those small details because they matter. So rectangle, and then I have length and width. So I'm just going to create this class. So they are on the same under the same package. I'm going to create the length and width. The only thing is that I'm restricting you is that I'm giving you that these should be private. So private what? Int or double, it's up to you. I'm just going to select a double because double can accept also int values, so just to be more inclusive. So but whatever you select is okay. But if you select this, for example, this length and width, if you select them to be doubles, then everything here, the set is going to take a double value inside the parameters as an argument. The get is going to return a double. If it was an int, then you're going to be setting int and getting int. If it was a float, then you have to adjust accordingly. So because I'm using double here, so everything is going to be about double values. So now I created those. Now I need to create this set length and get length, set width and get width. I'm just going to do it the manual way, and then I'm going to show you how NetBeans can help you generate those, which is kind of fun. And let's just do the manual way, which is I'd like to have public and void set length. Of course, it needs to take a double. I'm going to just say length, or maybe value, double value, and then whatever this value is, I'm going to save it into this there. Now copy and paste is going to be my friend here, because I just need to do the same for width, and instead of length it's going to be width, right? No big deal. Now the get is going to be similar, public double get length, and the get length doesn't take any argument. I just need to return the length. Copy and paste, and then I have to put something. Get width, yes, I need to put the condition, and I did not do that yet. I'm just preparing the general way, and then yes, I need to put the condition where, because it was mentioned here that make sure that the values entered for both length and width are positive numbers. So where do I put some values inside of length and width? I put them inside of set length, so I can just put this condition there. But I'm not going to do it now because I want to show you what NetBeans is going to generate. Notice that this value is different from this value. This is a variable that is declared here, which means it's only known inside these this body. So outside this is not known. If I just try to do something like value equals something, this is not going to work because value is only declared inside here. So if I do something like this, then this is okay because it's inside this same body that it is declared on, so that's not a problem. But I'm just using this to store it inside, so that's what it means. Just give me a double value and I'm going to store it in the width when I'm using the set width, and get me a double value for the length, and I'm going to store it inside the length. Well, basically I need to check that double value before storing it, but I'm not doing the checking because I would like to delete everything and start generating from NetBeans these getters and setters. I would like to show you how we can do that. Actually, even NetBeans can even make these private for you. If you did not put them private, you just do something like this, and then there's this source, and then insert code something. If insert code, here it is, or this alt insert. So either you just come somewhere and then you press alt and then insert, the insert that is above the delete key on your keyboard, and then this is going to show you this. Or you just go to source and then insert code, which is going to show you exactly the same thing. So these are both the two different ways. You can see that many things can be generated for you, and it means can make your life easy if you just learn how to use it correctly. Now what we're going to be doing is just this thing, getter, setter, or both. So what do you want to do? Do you want to just generate the getter? Well, you just select this one. It's going to only generate the getters for you, or just the setters for you. Or if you want both of them, getters and setters, then this is the one to choose. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to click here, and then you're going to see it detected that this class rectangle has length and width. Both of them are double, and I want them both to have getters and setters, so I'm selecting them. If I want only one of them to have getters and setters, I'm just selecting the only one that I want to. But selecting them both, which means both of them are going to be having getters and setters. Then there's this encapsulate fields, which means that this, if it's checked, it's going to make these become private. So it's going to do two things. Now because I checked this here, this is going to become private here, and this is going to create a set length and a get length, set width and a get width. If I remove this thing, it will not change here, it will stay as it is, and then it will not make them private. So encapsulate field is going to make them private, and it's going to generate these setters and getters because I selected them. Now click generate, and what happened? Yeah, because what happened here is that, let's go back so you can see. Yes, I declared them both in one line, and then NetBeans had some difficulty doing this properly. What actually, if you would like to use the help of NetBeans, it is the way that you should be declaring them. Even if it's the same double, same data type, they are expected to be each one on a separate line. That's why NetBeans did not behave correctly. Now if I have them this way, go back to source, insert code, and then getters and setters, select them all, encapsulate field, and then generate. Notice that they are both now private, and then I have this get length, set length, get width, set width. But notice something strange, something that you've seen for the first time. This. So what this is for? Well, this is something interesting, because let's remove it and see what would be the outcome of that. Now when I remove this thing, there's a problem. What's the problem? This parameter is the same name as this instance variable. So now this instruction means what? Take the parameter, store it inside the variable, or take the variable, store it inside the parameter, or take the parameter, store it inside of the parameter itself. Actually, this is why, if you want to specify that length now is this length of this class, that's why you have to use this keyword. So this keyword, as you can see, this dot is going to list is going to list the different instance variables and methods inside this class. So this is like this class itself. So when I'm doing this, notice now when I select this, it's selecting the one that is from the instance variable, not this one. And if I click on this one, because it doesn't have this, then it is having no ambiguity. Now this keyword is only disambiguifying or taking the ambiguity out of these things. Why? Because this is the same name as this. So they have the same name, that's why we have the problem. If we remove this and make it, for example, value the same way I did it here, or maybe just let me use refactor. Now if I do something like refactor and then I'm renaming, see the value, see what happens? Because they have the same name, it was thought that this is the same variable that I'm changing. But actually that's not what I want. I want this to be like this. Now if I'm using a different name in the parameter, I don't have to use the this. But if I use this, is this a problem? No, it's not. This is just extra typing for you. So NetBeans generally just takes this same name and put it as a parameter, and then it gives you the this, so you don't have to get the confusion. So that's the difference between what we type ourselves and what NetBeans generate. So if you don't want to type a lot of code, I advise you just to get used to this thing. And the only problem now that this is the new thing that you're seeing is that this keyword. This keyword, all it does is just make sure that this, after what comes after this, is the name of the instance variable, not a name of some variable that you just declared as a parameter, for example, or as an local variable. Notice whatever, for example, imagine that I declared another width, for example here, and I put some number there. Now notice that this width that I'm returning is not the width that is coming from the class, because I just declared another variable with the exact same name. So now returning this width is going to return the one that I just declared. How do I know? Well, check NetBeans helps you. When you click on a variable, it just selects everywhere what it is. Now when I click on this variable, it's just selecting the one that I'm returning as well. This is this one. Now notice what, if I remember, I renamed this. Now if I click on this one, which one is selected? The one from the class. So it tells you, it recognizes which one is which. So if I name a variable of the same name of the instance variable, I can still distinguish between them by using the this. Now by using this, look, now it's highlighting the one that is as an instance variable. So that's how you can distinguish between the variable that is an instance variable of the class, or a local variable that you just declared, or a parameter that you just declared. I hope it's okay for you. Yeah. So let's now move to I have the getter and setter. Let me just delete everything and just show you how to do that again. We can just even see how it is doing without the refactoring, the encapsulation. Let's go to source, insert code. So this is where you go into the getters and setters, and then you select them both because you want them for both. If I don't click here, notice it's just going to select everything without changing this to private. And if I just do it again, insert code, and then select everything with this now, it's just going to make this become private.
I've already mentioned private in the declaration.
Yeah, you don't have to check that. If you have already declared them as private, you just don't need. Even if you select them, it's not going to add an extra private for you. It's just going to detect that it doesn't need to do so. But if, for example, one of them is private, one is not, it's just going to make the other one that is not private, it's going to make it private. Now, for example, like this, let me encapsulate and select all, generate. You see, this is the only one that was added. The other one was not adding another private to it. So that's the idea behind this thing. Source format is going to format everything. Now that's quite convenient because in some cases you may define a class that has many instance variables, And you might think, oh, it might take me too much time just to create getters and setters. Well, this tool now can help you insert the code, and it will just take less time. You don't have to do anything if you don't want to do some verification. But for us, we would like to do some verification because the setters should allow to make a verification. What if the length is negative? We need to do something about it. So now in the set, I'm going to ask a question, which is if the width that is given to me, now if I use width without this, it means this is the one coming from the parameter. So if this is positive, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to assign this. But what if it's negative? What if the number is negative? What am I going to put there? Well, nothing was mentioned in the exercise, but let me give you an idea. For example, I can just make it. So if it was negative, I'm going to make it like this. So if the number is -2, is -2 greater than 0? No. -2 becomes 2, and then I'm storing 2 inside of that. So this is like one way to change it to a positive number. I can use a mathematical function like absolute value. You know the absolute function? Like absolute function, that if you do something like this, the result of that, if it's positive, it's going to stay positive, but if it's negative, it's going to become positive. Yeah. Well, you can. Your question is, can I display something, for example, in the set width, like telling this is wrong, this is something? Well, generally, when you prepare a class with setters and getters, the set is supposed just to put a value. So it's not supposed to do some kind of displaying. So you keep that for other places. So only for the get, the same thing. You just want to display something. You just return some value, and then these are like the standard way how to set and get. You can do whatever you want to, but the norm and the standard way to do that is that you don't display in a setter or a getter most of the time. Let me just show you the absolute. What if I'd like to use this set length? Just make sure that it's absolute. There's a function called math.abs, which basically just give it a number, and that number, even if it's negative, it's going to be converted to a positive, and if it's positive, it will just going to stay positive. That's the absolute function, mathematical function absolute. It's represented mathematically like this. For example, if you have -2, something like that, this is going to give you 2, and if it's 2, if it's 2, it's going to also give you 2. So that's the mathematical representation. So either this way or the other way is okay, but anyways, I'm just showing you different possibilities, different ways to do the same thing. But what was really needed is just this, because this is according to the question. It just takes it asked us to make sure that the entered value are positive numbers. So which means now if it's a positive, you give me a positive number, I'm going to accept it. What if the user gives me a negative number? I'm not going to be changing anything inside the width, so it will stay as it was. So that's the idea. Now the last one is the known things, get area and get perimeter. Let me just implement those. Let me define them. So public double get area. I'm sorry? No, unfortunately, you cannot generate something that the computer does not understand what you would like to do. So get area. You're not going to detect that, oh, you're talking about a rectangle. I know what's the formula for that, and I'm going to do it for you. We're not there yet. Maybe very soon, maybe, but we're not there yet. So get perimeter, and this is 2 times this length plus width. And I can do something like declare a variable double result and put something, this result of the calculation there, and then you return the result. Result. You can do something like that, but just it creates an extra variable that you can just remove.
0.
Where?
The result.
result you put 0.
No, return 0.
Return 0. So you do the calculation and then you put return 0, which means regardless of what you put in the length or the width, the area is always going to be 0. Because you do some calculation. Notice what NetBeans is telling you. Variable result is not used. So you declare the variable, you put something inside of it, and you never used it. Because this result has no effect whatsoever into this get area. What has an effect is this. So get area is going to return whatever you put in after the return. All right. So that's it. Now, if I'd like to have some kind of an output that looks like this, where should I put that? Not inside here. I'm just going to do it inside the main, where I'm going to be displaying something like that. The area is, and so on. So let me just do that by displaying something like the area of the rectangle is and now I need to display something, but I don't have the variable declared yet. So I need to declare a variable of the type rectangle that I just prepared. So my rectangle, let's just create and name it rectangle, equal new rectangle. Notice that the capital R makes a difference between my variable and my class. So the class is this rectangle. This is my object that I just created. This is my variable name. So this now, rectangle dot, I can use some get area, right? But the problem is that I did not put any value inside of it. So by default, length and width are going to be 0 because they are primitive data types, because I use double. So the default value for primitive data type is 0. What if I'd like to have this something that's 200? Well, let's just do something like this rectangle. I'm just going to set the length to be 10 and the width, set the width to be 20, and this is going to show me 200 because 20 times 10, that's 200. Now what if I'd like to display the perimeter? So then this is going to be get perimeter. Okay, I forgot to make this capital, so I'm just going to rename. One good thing, you see, if you rename here something here, I'm renaming the get perimeter method, which belongs to the rectangle class. So if I rename something here, you see, actually it was also renamed here. So it renames it everywhere. That's the good thing. Now if I run this thing, it's going to show me this 260, which is something similar to this, something like that. Well, just press any key to continue. This is coming from mainly because I think that that program was created with the C++, I think, something like that. So anyway, this is something that you can, that shows how to create a class, to define a class, and then you have getters and setters that you can generate from the NetBeans that can help you generate those, and then use that class. So I'm using this class rectangle inside the main where I'm going to put something. What if I put a negative number? Because I know that the code is going to convert it to a positive, so even if I put -10, the result is going to be exactly the same, because this -10 is going to be converted to 10. How do I know that? Well, I can do something. I can ask to display the length, get length, or see this rectangle dot get length. Immediately after inserting -10, if I just display what's inside of the length, I should see 10, not -10, and that's what I'm seeing right here. So this is just showing that actually it does what it's expected to do. All right.